Okay, I know it has been a hot minute since I have posted, and I'm sorry about that, but I guess that will somewhat be about this video today, me explaining some of the reasons why that's been the case, why I've been uploading, and I'll make sure to catch up on all of the uploads that I've failed to make over the past couple of weeks. But what is today about? Well, today is about an experience I had which was really beneficial for me on many levels, and I think it's best to explain the situation as a whole and like what happened and what I did and how that then has big significance or importance for me, because it is a very solely individual thing for myself, but I thought it was worthwhile sharing with you just so maybe you can think in your own life whether there's been a similar experience, or whether or not you need to have you need to find and have a similar experience as to what I had. But let's go through it. So, pretty much just to a little bit of history about me and, well, about where, what kind of informed this, course of action was, for a really long time, like 24 years, I'd say my entire childhood and much of my early 20s, I lived in a place called Carlingford, and that's a sleepy little suburb in Sydney. And grew up there, spent my entire life there, but eventually me, like, and my family moved away. We had wanted to move for quite some time. Eventually there was took a really long time to get everything ready for us to move, but eventually we did. We sold, we moved out to another place a little bit further out northwest in Kellyville, and that was in that would have been in 2021 that happened, where we sold and kind of moved up and uprooted our lives. And I guess, look, it must have been a combination of a whole lot of changes and then also COVID together. So I look at my life back then, even just a couple of years ago, and compared to where I am today, there's a huge transformation and evolution, pretty much from head to toe in almost every aspect of my life. And that would have been quite gargantuan on its own, but then you throw in the added variable, or kind of thing to be aware of, which is COVID and how we had a global pandemic. So and I'm sure this experience is similar for a lot of people, when they think about the years of 2020 to 2022, kind of end of 2022, it's all a bit of a blur. And like I feel like a lot of people only just now in the middle, well, second half of 2023 are starting to kind of come out of that COVID fog, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's true for myself as well in some respects. But there's been this huge change that have happened in my life, and I guess I thought that there was kind of just something missing. And for a number of months now, the thought of Carlingford as a place has been something that has crept into my mind from time to time. And I've thought about going back there and visiting. And it's not that far away. It's not like I'm going hours or anything. It's literally 30 or 40 minutes down the road from me. And I've driven past it, but I haven't gone into it. Like, I haven't gone into the suburb and done things there, because like I said, my family kind of moved away from there, and coincidentally, a lot of my friends who may or kind of lived in the area have also kind of moved on to different places, either out of the state, or they've moved to a different place in the city. It's a whole different kind of dynamic to what it used to be when I used to be living there. And so I don't have much of a reason to go there at all. And so I found it quite weird that I was having these like thoughts and feelings, more thoughts about Carlingford than anything else. And nothing in particular, just more about the place as a whole. And I guess there was a nagging sense of I'd wanted to see what had changed in that time since I hadn't been there, and see, I don't know, like a sort of comparison of like, I've changed dramatically since, living there, I wanted to see whether or not that the place of Carlingford had changed itself. And so, for whatever reason, the other week or the other day, I had a dream about Carlingford, and in the dream I was, back there, and first, it was very different. There was, an old street near my house now had this like multi-story car park complex on it. So there was massive changes to Carlingford in the dream. And then the next day I was kind of like, you know what? I have been planning or thinking about going back there for some time. I've got this free day. I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm actually gonna go back and visit my old home. And so that's kind of what I did. I, packed took my dog with me, took her in the car with me, and we firstly set off for, my old home. So I still live in this really like kind of like this cul-de-sac, and like kind of off, off one or two, a couple streets off a main road. And I got there, and I remember pulling into the cul-de-sac, and I was like, it's so surreal because, for the majority of my life on this planet, I've called that place home. Yet when I pulled into that cul-de-sac, it felt so, it was kind of this like juxtaposition of me feeling like I know this place like the back of my hand. It's so familiar, because I have that history with it. But then also it felt alien to me in the sense that like I could, standing in that cul-de-sac and looking around, the place that I had called home for so long, I could never kind of do that anymore. Like there was something in my mind where it's just like looking at it then, I was like, man, I could never go back here. Like I couldn't imagine the life the things I'm doing in my life now, I couldn't imagine doing those while living here. I mean, it probably is more than likely possible that I could, but it just doesn't seem to gel. And then, after that, like after I did a bit of a look around in the cul-de-sac, me and Morticia, my dog, Greyhound, went for a little bit of walk to this park that's a couple streets away from, where I used to live. And so we did a bit of a walk around there. And then lastly, we did, two more things is we went for a little bit of a drive just around the suburb to see what had changed. And, there was this one area of the suburb where there's these high-rise apartments being put up, and the difference, I'd say that would probably have been the biggest tangible difference between when I used to live there and when I came back and visited, was that there were a lot more of those high-rise developments that had either been built since or were in the process of being constructed. So that was something different. So the skyline had changed in some places within the suburb. And then I went to the major shopping centre, in Carlingford, called Carlingford Court, and just had a look around, got lunch and, had a look around. And, a lot of it was still the same. Some things had changed, like some stores had obviously closed down, maybe due to COVID and the lack of business, and, new ones had sprung up in their place. So there was all that kind of stuff. And, I was only there for 2 to 3 hours, and you go through the itinerary of what I actually did, it doesn't seem like a whole lot was going on. But upon leaving and, kind of preparing to leave and getting in the car and going, I started to realize, what the significance was of me revisiting Carlingford, and why I think my mind was subconsciously telling me to go back there. And it was because there wasn't, with all the changes that I've made in the past couple of years with my life, there wasn't a clear demarcation line between, the life I had before and the life I live now. And I think that's what, or at least in my mind, and, the way I feel about it now, is I feel that experience of me revisiting Carlingford was to give myself that clear boundary and cutoff point between, almost you could say, the first act of my life, like act one of my life, pretty much me, getting raised and kind of becoming the foundation of who I am today. But, so there's that part, and then what the act or era that I'm in now, which is kind of my act two, which is, me kind of more stepping out into my adult life and, what is going to be the next large proportion or large part of my life, because most of your childhood you kind of really don't remember, because it's so long ago, and also you're not really of the age where you're kind of remembering those things. Those experiences are coming so quick and fast that it's hard to always remember them. So sometimes your childhood can feel like a bit of a blur, and that's kind of what it feels like for me. And yeah, I think for me that was a really great experience, because ever since then I've been really happy and content. Obviously, there's moments when I'm not, but I knew something was off. Like over for the past little while, I knew something was off. Shit, editing cut because it messed up again. Yeah, the camera cut off. But what I was saying was, I knew something was off. So I knew something was off in my life for quite some time, and that in my mind, that experience, I think that's what it was drawing me towards. And it's now become the realization that, everyone lives in their own realities in some respect. And the reality that I lived in when I was living in Carlingford is something I can no longer go back to. It's something that's no longer available to me. Yeah, I'm cut off from it. It's still a part of me, and it's still part of who I am, but it's not something I can actually, exist within, because, I've almost grown beyond that point now. And I think it was that realization, and finally, it's weird how you have to tangibly, I had to tangibly go there, but it was just this moment where I knew that everything in my life that is happening now couldn't have been the same, or wouldn't have probably been as good if I was still living there. And it's helped me to kind of put the beginning part of my life to rest, and laying that part of my life to rest, so that I can move on with, like I said, the act 2 of my life, what I'm currently in now. I can look forward and kind of deal with the future, So yeah, look, I'll stop. I'm starting to ramble, so I'll probably stop it here. But I guess that's something I wanted to just talk to you about, is like I said, maybe there's been an experience in your own life where you've had that cut off, or that demarcation experience or moment where you realize there's an era of your life that you've now had to put to rest, or lay to rest, so that you can move forward and look into the future. Or if you're feeling like something's off, maybe that is something you could look into. Maybe there's some experience you need to have, related to your past, that you kind of have to get closure on, and to, like I said, give you the ability to act into the future. So give that a thought. It might not be exactly what you need right now in your life, but it's something to just think about, and keep in the back of your mind, because I never really thought it'd be something that I would ever do or ever experience. But I think it's just one of those human things where you don't really expect it until it happens, and then once it happens, you kind of wonder why you didn't do it earlier. So yeah, thanks so much, and like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you soon. Bye.